From the crossroads of the Ozarks, this is P.I.D. Radio. Welcome. I'm Derek Gilbert.
I'm Sharon Gilbert, and we're so glad that you're out there today. Boy, you know what? It's beautiful here in the Ozarks. A little bit cooler weather. Not the best day for a dog to run out and enjoy both yards, but that's just
true.
Here.
Yeah. Weather-wise, it'd be a great day. It's only supposed to get into the 70s here, which for mid-July in the Ozarks is very, very pleasant.
It's pretty crazy. We're happy for it, thanking the Lord for it. But as you've probably noticed from our Facebook photos, that we have we have foundation work going on at our house. Mm-hmm. We're getting to, our good friend Dave James is going to be installing siding that was gifted to us.
Yes.
Windows that were gifted to us. Our windows don't open.
What a blessing.
Our siding, we didn't know that the siding really needed to be replaced. It's old and it's got some holes in a few places, but this was a God thing.
Yeah, because as David, his company, by the way, called Christ Powered Construction, you can't beat that.
You can't.
As he was pulling away the siding and he detected other issues that needed to be addressed.
Yeah,
there was water getting in one place that needed to be addressed.
A few of the concrete blocks that were loose. And the concrete and the cinder block foundation was just thought, well, okay, if we're going to put darker colored siding up there, let's paint it with some Drylock.
Yeah, paint it with Drylock to seal it. And as he got into it, he said, you realize in one corner here, you got 4 blocks where the mortar's completely disintegrated. You can actually pull the cinder blocks out.
Yeah. We prefer that they be...
we need a firm foundation. Yeah.
And many of you have said there's a sermon in that, and there is indeed.
Absolutely.
And again, we will thank the Lord God Almighty for inspiring our good friend to donate these things to us. This is what he does for a living. He is an avocational pastor, but daytime job is selling siding and windows. And Mike, you have blessed us in ways that we can never thank you for, but especially because the Lord used your gift to show us that our house was falling down.
Well, yeah, not quite falling down. But
no, actually, it's not.
These were long-term issues that had they gone unchecked would
10
have become...
10 years from now, who knows?
Yeah, would have become very obvious.
Yeah.
So they're being addressed in a timely manner because... of the gift, because we would not have thought, okay, should we take X amount of dollars and put new siding in the house?
We never would have done
probably fine. The windows we probably would have replaced a couple at a time. Yeah. Eventually, our bedroom windows especially, because they wouldn't open. But
the others don't open very well either.
Not very well, no. And that can be a security issue. I mean, you never want to think, well, what happens if there's a home fire? It's probably fine. But if that one time you need to get out of a room and you can't get through a doorway and you need to go out through a window and you can't get the window open, that becomes a problem.
And if we had a guest, the guest bedroom, they don't open very easily. The dining room doesn't. So anyway, there's that. Yeah. So we thank you for that. We thank the Lord for that. And we know many, many of you have been praying for us and you support us in other ways. And for that, we are eternally grateful.
We truly are. We know that we're protected because this is just the latest in a series of things that have been discovered before they became much bigger problems.
Yeah.
The arcing, the scorch marks that were found behind the old box here in the barn when the electrical system was updated.
Yeah, the water in the line going from the barn, the electric between the barn and the house.
And
lots of things.
The lint from the dryer that was blowing into the backside of the fireplace.
Yeah, and it was scorched. You could see where it had burned.
Right. So anyway, the Lord has protected us. And again, we truly appreciate your prayers and support.
He protects foolish people.
He does. And we're
just going along.
Evidence of that. Yeah, happy as Larry, not knowing a thing. So if you are so inclined, you can donate to us through gilberthouse.org/donate. We've also got a streaming video site that we keep forgetting to talk about. You can access it at gilberthouse.org/video if you want to see our presentations on various and sundry, everything from giants in the Bible, why they matter, the UFO phenomenon, occultism in the 19th century, Jack the Ripper, Aleister Crowley, and so on. Those are all available for as little as $2.95 for a 7-day rental. This includes our traveloguementaries, our long sort of pseudo-documentary videos of our tours of Israel, Blatherfest of our tours of Israel, and you'll find those all at gilberthouse.org/video.
Well, now that we've reminded you to download the app and to enjoy talking in the, we didn't mention the conversation area, but it's a wonderful part of the app. I always watch everything on the app and the mobile app, and I look in on the conversations. Stop and pray for people. Don't always answer. Try to, but again, I don't like to do typing on my phone. But those of you who are active, you've formed a fellowship. You've formed a virtual congregation.
Mm-hmm.
You are supporting one another, praying for one another, praying with one another. And for that, I am really grateful to the Lord.
Yes, it is a wonderful place to gather. And that conversation area is offline. So it's hosted on by the Christian company that develops the app, a company called Subsplash. And thus you don't have bots or trolls looking in from outside.
Mm-hmm.
It's contained to this little community. So you can access it through the app, and you can get the app at gilberthouse.org/app or pidradio.com/app, either way.
And now we'll begin with the elephant in the room. And by that, I mean the Republican in the room and what happened last Saturday afternoon.
After P.I.D. radio went up last Saturday, which we normally get out by about noon on Saturdays. Of course, last Saturday evening, just after 6 p.m. Eastern time, a 20-year-old named Thomas Matthew Crooks fired, we're told now, 8 shots with an AR-15 at President Trump. He was wounded in the ear, but a former fire chief, volunteer fireman in Butler County, Pennsylvania, Corey Comparator, his name, father, his last words to his family, get down, as he covered them to protect them from the bullets, his wife and his daughter. He was fatally wounded. 2 other people whose names I don't know, critically injured, still being treated in local hospitals there. This has changed the dynamic of the presidential election here in the United States in a very, very dramatic way. The way President Trump responded, I suppose former President Trump is correct, but his title President Trump.
I think you get to keep the last title you had.
We still call President Obama as such, President Bush.
Yeah.
So President Trump, when the Secret Service determined it was safe for him to get up again, to defiantly raise his fist and mouth the words fight, 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 I'll tell you that photo that was captured by the AP photographer with Trump bloodied with his fist raised and the American flag in the background.
Mm-hmm.
That visual that'll be one of those iconic photos that's printed in books for years. Like the photos, for example, Kent State or the Marines at Iwo Jima. That sort of iconic thing. In fact, it's so iconic that there is a substantial portion of voters, most of them Democrat, who think that the whole thing was staged. There was a survey this week that said 1/3 of Democrat voters believe the whole thing was staged to give Trump a boost in the ratings. Tell that to the Comparator family. I mean, that is just absolutely repulsive to suggest that. It would also suggest that the deep state in D.C., the Secret Service, Department of Homeland Security, want Trump to win, which is contradicts everything we've seen regarding the deep state and Donald Trump for the last 8 years.
It really is. So you have to ask, okay, if this were planned, then they assumed it was going to work. Why would you plan something that would almost guarantee his election if you're deep state?
You wouldn't. And secondly, the odds of something going horribly wrong. Get a 20-year-old shooter who reportedly, according to his classmates from the high school he attended, which is about 40 miles from where the rally was held, he tried out for the competitive shooting team in high school, which had just 2 years. He only graduated in 2020. He didn't make the team because he was such a bad shot. In fact, one of the students said, as he was trying out, he was in the lane number 7, and I guess these ranges where they shoot, they've got 8 lanes, and so he was in the second to the right, or from the right, and he hit the left wall. So
let me just raise my hand on this, because I'm sorry, I don't buy that. The only way that he could possibly miss that much would be to have somebody hit his gun at the last minute so that it moved.
It does
seriously.
Yeah. I don't know.
Or he has vision problems.
Yeah. And again, you're taking the word of a kid who knew him in high school several years ago.
No, that sounds like a joke that they all told.
But what does appear to be true is that he tried out and did not make that team for whatever reason. We don't know. Was it because he was a bad shot? Because the coach had better shooters?
Or because they didn't like him.
Because they didn't like him. He appears to have been, based on accounts, a quiet, bookish kid who was bullied, which is sad. Sad that there are kids who will try to respond to that when they get a little older by saying, well, I'll show them. I'll go out in a blaze of glory. Yeah,
he's a registered, he's passed on because they shot him that day. A miraculous shot, a 1 in a million shot, by the way, because it was not the closest anti-sniper shooter who took him out. It was 400 yards away. 400 yards away, right. There were not just 2 snipers, there were 4 counter snipers who were deployed at the rally, 2 local police, and according to reports, the 2 who were closer when Crook's first shot, they kind of flinched, which trained snipers are not supposed to do. When you hear a gunshot, you're not supposed to flinch because you flinch, you miss. And apparently the barrel on the guns, according to observers who watched the video, on those snipers who were only about 150 yards from Crooks, flinched and missed. It was the Secret Service counter sniper who was the one who actually took the shot that neutralized Crooks. So as you say, it was a miraculous shot. Yeah, and that's what those guys are trained for. But the questions that need to be answered are why it took so long, why they waited until he shot, because we now know that Crooks was identified as a person of interest, somebody who needed to be attended to, more than an hour, 62 minutes to be exact, before he fired the shot. This has been extensively covered elsewhere. Yeah, you've probably seen some meme posters at X and at Facebook looking at the slope of a roof. Yeah. Which apparently was floated out there as the reason why no one went up there. Yeah. Because who could possibly go up there? The head of the Secret Service, who is a woman, and I'm looking up her name now because I don't remember it off the top of my head. She was the one who came up with that Kimberly Cheadle is her name. She said that we didn't have anyone posted on that roof because the roof was too sloped. But there should have been somebody securing that building to make sure that nobody was. I mean, the kid put a ladder up against the building and climbed up there. He managed it. I've even seen video of a cow on a sloped roof. So it could have and should have been done. Local police were using that building as a command center. They were inside of it. And apparently local police were also aware of what was going on. So there are a lot of questions, and I'm sure that they will be addressed over the next few weeks. But the bottom line is that Trump has gone way up in the esteem of the Republican Party, which is why it's the elephant in the room. Right. Yeah. About 73% of Republicans are behind Donald Trump right now. You still got the few rhinos or never Trump Republicans, guys like the old National Review guy. I can see his face, but I can't think of his name off the top of my head. Bill Christopher? Is that Christopher or William? Crystal, Bill Crystal. That's it, yes. Yeah. The one who was one of the founders of Project for a New American Century. Yeah, yeah. So guys like him, Washington Post columnist Max Boot, who's a neocon, people like that. But most Republicans are firmly in Trump's camp right now. Is Bill Crystal one of the signers to the Project 2025 paper? I don't know. Project 2025 is being used as sort of a boogeyman right now by Democrats, and they're trying to tie Trump to it, even though Trump has disavowed any connection to it. He says, I'm not behind it. I don't even know what's in there. Yeah, the claim is that it smacks of dominionism, smacks of, we want a Christian theocracy in place in Washington. No, there's nothing there. What I think that the paper actually is trying to do is get rid of the swamp. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But there are a lot of things in there that liberals are in favor of. Yeah. Like continuing full support for Ukraine and things like that. So, yeah, they're looking for something to gain some traction because right now Joe Biden is floundering.
his campaign.
He's sheltering in place.
Yeah, he came down with COVID.
That's
tested
what
COVID, they say. So he's back in Delaware, apparently trying to run another campaign from his basement. I don't think it'll work this time.
No.
The pressure on him to step aside is growing. You've got very prominent Democrats now who are just coming out and openly saying he can't win. He needs to go.
President Obama has
reportedly behind the scenes.
Yes.
Yeah. But there are those who've said so openly, like Adam Schiff. He's a congressman from California. He's not the most truthful person, but he does seem to be a pretty reliable indicator of the official deep state narrative. So
yeah, that's true.
When you've lost Adam Schiff as a Democrat, you are in trouble.
Wasn't Schiff hoping to get, the senatorial?
Yeah, he ran for Senate.
But the one who just passed away.
Yeah, Dianne Feinstein.
Yeah, Feinstein.
Yeah.
Has she passed away?
Yeah.
That's what I thought. And I thought Schiff thought that he was going to get, because Newsom would have been the one to appoint it.
Mm-hmm. So
Meghan Markle thought she was going to get it. Reportedly, she was calling Newsom many times a day, and he finally blocked her phone call.
Yeah. She is like
she's ambitious.
Many on the left. Yeah. Not operating in reality. It's interesting. For so long, the Democratic senators from California were Feinstein and who's
Waters?
No, not Waters, but who is the other woman? Nouns escaping me.
Proper names.
Yeah, but right now it's Alex Padilla and LaFonza Butler are the two senators from California.
There was one woman who it wasn't Waters, it was who just passed away.
Sheila Jackson Lee of Texas. Yes. Yeah, just passed away just yesterday, age 74. She had been diagnosed in June with pancreatic cancer.
And here's the thing, it doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on. When you take the final breath,
mm-hmm.
you either know Jesus or he knows you or he doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
You know him or you don't. There is not an in-between. It is binary.
Mm-hmm.
It is yes or no.
Right.
That's the essence of free will.
Simple yes-no answer, which means that people can have a lot of divergent views underneath those general headings. So there'll probably be a lot of people in glory.
That is true.
That we are surprised to see there.
Well, speaking of binary,
mm-hmm.
we're getting into computer language. C++, in fact, not A++++++,
mm-hmm.
which was written in A Christmas Story. But C++, which is a computer language, and apparently the software from CrowdStrike is written in C++. And I saw a wonderful breakdown today of what most likely happened, leading to a null error message, which when, according to this, if I understand it correctly, whenever you have a call to go to a certain area on a drive that essentially doesn't exist, a zero address, the software from Microsoft kicks it out. And boy, did it.
Yeah, it resulted in the blue screen of death for, well,
a lot of the world.
A lot of the world. It was not a good thing. As we saw airlines all over the place. In fact, a number of major airports here in the United States were completely shut down. LaGuardia in New York, Logan in Boston.
Some are still catching up today because when you have that many flights that suddenly are canceled, then as you know, if you've ever flown and your flight is canceled, then you have to figure out a way to take another plane.
Mm-hmm.
And those planes were already filled for the most part.
Right.
So it has a domino effect. But yes, the idea that the C++ call for a location that didn't exist, Microsoft software all around the world said, no, we're not doing that, kicked it out. And Elon Musk has said, look, I took all of that software off my servers. It is not going to be, CrowdStrike is out.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the weird thing about CrowdStrike. Because a lot of shares have been sold over the last year at CrowdStrike.
Yeah. In other words, employees of CrowdStrike selling them.
Yeah,
selling
suddenly
off their
selling,
shares.
but here's the thing, they sell and don't buy.
Yeah.
So it's not so much that, based on what I could find out this morning, it's not so much that they were saying I'm going to sell at a high, and then when I see it go down low again, I'll buy. We'll see if they're buying now.
Yeah.
Because it is low. It's down about 12%.
Mm-hmm. CrowdStrike really seems to have come out of nowhere. The company was only founded in 2011. So it kind of begs the question, how did they become so embedded in our society? I mean,
in 13 years. 13 years.
Yeah. Their first, the product that failed, which is the Falcon antivirus scanner, was launched in 2013. Yeah. But again, how did it in so quickly push out of the way older and more established cybersecurity companies like Norton and McAfee?
Well, I think that's a very good question. It's just like when the pandemic struck in 2019 and the world began to lock down in 2020. How is it that Zoom suddenly came out of nowhere? I'd never heard of Zoom until that year. Mm-hmm. And then suddenly everyone was using it. Skype was gone. We were all Zooming.
Yeah. Getting people, Skyping is still a thing, but suddenly everybody was using Zoom.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. There's always a suspicion when you see something like that. It wasn't because the product was necessarily better, but just that the guys behind the product had better connections.
Opportunistic. I did some research, I know you did as well, on CrowdStrike this morning, and I was curious to know who held the most shares. Mm-hmm. Guess who it is?
Well, I know the answer.
BlackRock.
Yeah. BlackRock. And some other very prominent venture capital firms, too, like State Street, Vanguard.
Yeah.
So,
biggies.
Uh-huh.
Well, apparently someone looked at it and said, okay, this is where we're putting all of our eggs, our IT eggs. You're making a...
Yeah, I was making a face because I went to my Wikipedia app here just to bring up some basic details about CrowdStrike. And when I put CrowdStrike in the search box, it said no results found.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, apparently because I didn't capitalize the S in strike.
That's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous.
No, that is ridiculous. Seriously, because on
I agree.
The actual browser page, not the app, doesn't matter.
Yeah. Case sensitive since when?
Since when?
Yes. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, we don't want you to find that.
This was founded back in 2011. The company founded in 2011 by George Kurtz, who was formerly with McAfee as their chief technology officer. He actually founded the company called FoundStone that was purchased by McAfee and rolled into McAfee's antivirus software.
FoundStone?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's not BlackRock.
But if the name CrowdStrike sounds familiar, it's because it was involved in the Russia collusion hoax. Mm-hmm. Back in 2016, CrowdStrike, which was a contractor of the Democratic National Committee and the Hillary Clinton campaign, investigated the leak of the DNC emails, which showed that Hillary Clinton and the DNC had colluded to squeeze Bernie Sanders out of the nomination for president. Mm-hmm. The Sanders was really the most popular of the candidates running back in 2016. He had a lot more groundswell support than Hillary did, but Hillary had determined that she was going to be the nominee. And in fact, that scandal that resulted from the leak of the DNC emails led the former DNC chair, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, to resign. They didn't, they apologized to Sanders, but they didn't give him the nomination. But CrowdStrike, the official story is, and the reason the name came to light is because Donald Trump, after becoming president, on a phone call to Volodymyr Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, asked him to look into CrowdStrike because CrowdStrike had reportedly determined that the emails had been hacked by Russian hackers or Russian intelligence and then leaked to help Donald Trump's political campaign, his presidential campaign. Trump wanted Zelensky to ask because he thought that perhaps there was a connection to some oligarchs in Ukraine that CrowdStrike might have been connected to. That probably not the case. But what we know, thanks to investigative work by a website called it's called The Last Refuge. But the web address is theconservativetreehouse.com.
Yeah.
Kind of a goofy URL, but they really do some deep investigative diving into the political intrigues here in the United States. And they showed a couple of things. First of all, it was that phone call that led to Trump's first impeachment. Because you remember, they claimed he was trying to influence a foreign government for his own personal benefit.
Oh, hold on.
Yeah.
That's been done.
Over and over again.
Biden and son.
Right. Biden openly saying, hey, fire that prosecutor, or you don't get the $2 billion.
Yeah.
Or whatever the loan was. I mean, he actually said this. It's been released. It's out there in the wild.
Mm-hmm.
But this is typical for what Trump has been enduring the last 8 years. Democrats, liberals, projecting onto him the things that they are doing or want to do and then prosecuting him for it.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, CrowdStrike came up in that conversation. Again, the official narrative from DHS and their cybersecurity, the FBI, was that, the Russians did it because CrowdStrike found that it was the Russians who did it. But it came out under questioning before Congress that the FBI and the DOJ never actually read the CrowdStrike report. They never saw it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
too
where
hard.
CrowdStrike came out. But again, remember that CrowdStrike was a contractor for the DNC
TLDR.
and for the Hillary Clinton campaign. But that gets back to the original question. How'd they get so big so fast? If they only launched the Falcon cybersecurity software, its antiviral scanner, in 2013, how were they providing these services to the Democratic National Committee within 3 years?
Well, let me just say this. BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street are the big three.
Yes.
They hold the majority, but most of the world's shares.
Mm-hmm.
They're huge.
Yes.
BlackRock manages $10 trillion of assets.
Mm-hmm.
$10 trillion.
For comparison, the gross domestic product of the United States is about 19 trillion. All economic activity, including government spending, why that's part of GDP, I don't know. But anyway, GDP.
Well, that makes no sense. It wouldn't be that.
No.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's why they don't want the government, reduced in size. Our GDP is going to go down.
GDP would go down. So $19 trillion, all economic activity in the United States in a given year. BlackRock managing $10 trillion of assets. BlackRock
being, and those three being the majority shareholders in CrowdStrike. Now, here's another weird thing. Beginning a few years ago, 2015 or so, we started to see people like Bill Gates and Klaus Schwab begin to talk about a cyber pandemic. When something would happen to one series of servers or computers and then infect others and then mutate and infect yet others and eventually shut down the world. Yeah. And I thought, boy, that almost happened yesterday.
Yeah, and it wasn't a virus. We need to be clear.
No, it was just bad writing.
Right.
Bad coding.
CrowdStrike pushed out an update to its Falcon antivirus software, and the update caused the glitch.
Yes, exactly. Had a hacker done something similar with a program that then went in and rewrote some of your code to say the following, to have a null address. And then that was spread to others, and then to others, and then beyond. Remember Stuxnet?
Yeah.
That was installed in Iran with a drive, a portable drive. And somehow it got into the wild, and it got adapted and changed, as did Promise software.
Wow. Yeah. That's going back to the 1980s.
I know. It's PROMIS, and it goes way back to, Reconnaissuto and the Cabazon Indian.
The Reagan administration.
Yeah, so many high weirdness things that were taking place.
Attorney General Ed Meese.
Yep.
You can do a search at PID Radio. There's a search bar there. If you want to search Promise, PROMIS. We've done full programs on this in the past and don't have all that information up right now. And so many of the details have now
we so long ago forgotten
lost in the mists of
me.
time. But that is a big event.
Yes.
We did talk about it again recently with that 3-part Netflix documentary.
We did.
The octopus murders.
Yes, we did. So you can look for that as well. Bottom line, our suggestion, at least mine is, and I think you agree, is keep some cash.
One of the areas that was affected by this were credit card processing and debit card processing services. So there were a lot of businesses that were suddenly...
It will take cash only. They were literally saying there's been an effort to just get rid of cash. Mm-hmm. And there are even some really big banks that don't want to take cash deposits.
Right. Yeah, we've seen this. There's a major bank in Australia that's announced that by this fall, they will no longer be taking cash.
I'm betting they changed their minds on that, at least for now, because a lot of banks were affected.
Right.
Try doing a transaction, when they're shut down.
Yeah.
ATMs shut down.
ATMs shut down. Banks shut down.
Try to get gas. Try to buy groceries.
Airlines not able to process tickets. I saw somebody on X post a photo of a handwritten boarding pass that they had to get at the Mumbai airport.
Yeah.
Besides Logan and LaGuardia, Mitchell Airfield in Milwaukee was shut down. Harry Reid in Las Vegas. Other airports all over.
Well, here's my question.
Running Microsoft, blue screen of death.
Did it go beyond transactions? Did it also get into FAA?
That's a really good question. That's possible. FAA software, in other words, air traffic control.
Exactly.
I don't know. I know that hospitals, there was a hospital chain in northern Germany had to reschedule elective surgeries because their software was offline.
Well, you want software to tell you exactly what it is you're doing. Mm-hmm. Okay, we know that this, tumor is here, or this has to be. There have been terrible stories over the many, many decades of someone going in for an appendectomy and having something entirely different done.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You don't want those kind of mistakes.
You really do not.
Are so dependent on our electronic brains, and they are so interconnected that this update knocked out. This is being described as the biggest IT failure in world history. And I've been searching while you've been talking here, trying to find an estimate for the economic impact, and we don't know.
I don't think they're going to be able to tell for the next few weeks. There will be probably some sort of investigation into exactly what happened. Whom do we blame? Okay, fall guy, you out the door.
Yeah.
I'm just the janitor.
Well, it is just a reminder that a day is coming when our reliance on the internet will come back to bite us. So as you say, just as a simple preparation, number one, always keep cash on hand. Number two, get paper books, especially of your research materials and your Bible.
Yep. And another thing too is get in the habit of periodically, routinely, once a week or whatever, do a screen cap of your bank account. You're online.
Huh. Not a bad idea.
I used to do that all the time.
Huh.
That way, if it ever goes down, you can say this was the last time. Mm-hmm. Now, if you download your statements, at least you would have that. But you may have deposits that went in, other transactions that went in since your last statement. So be able to tell your bank if everything fails.
Yeah.
The day is coming when there would be a great reset, so to speak.
Right.
Oh, I'll coin that. Great reset. How about that?
Mm-hmm.
No.
How about greater reset? Yeah, the Lord returns.
I love that. No, let me finish. The day is coming when that will happen, and we have to be ready for it, because it isn't if it will happen, it's when it will happen.
Mm-hmm. One question here, and this is similar to the big question that needs to be answered regarding the attempt on Trump's life. Is it plausible that they're really that incompetent?
No, that is a good question.
Because you would think that before they pushed out this update, they had tested it internally on a machine that was not connected to the internet.
Well, you would think so, because apparently when you're writing new code, that's put in there as part of your test.
Mm-hmm.
I would recommend, again, go to my X account, and a few posts down, you will find this long thread, because you can only post so many characters. So there's a long thread where this gentleman goes into the explanation for what happened. And again, most of it went over my head, but there was enough in there that I understood that, okay, apparently blue screen of death happened because you want me to do what? I'm sorry, I have to kick you out now.
Mm-hmm.
We can't have that. Well, before we go to break, just want to really sort of say one last thing about this. And that is that the DOD, our Pentagon, was going to have a one-stop shop for their cloud storage. That contract was to be awarded a few years ago to one company. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Well, a few years ago, they did award the contract, but they split it into 4 companies. Apparently, there was enough screaming about that idea. Don't put all those eggs in one basket.
Mm-hmm.
So Google, Oracle, Microsoft, and Amazon share responsibility for the Pentagon's $9 billion contract. They're building a cloud computing network. Now, I'll just give you this little tease. If you are going to be in at the Go Therefore conference next weekend, that's exactly what I'm talking about. I'm going to be reading a short story to you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to tell you a story that looks into this idea. In fact, part of the short story opens up our book, The Gates of Hell, which will be released later this year.
October 15th, we hear.
Oh,
yeah,
10,
earlier
15.
than I thought. Yeah,
Could be 10:13.
Oh, that'd
Should
be perfect.
10:13.
Yeah, an important date in my novel, The God Conspiracy.
Oh, yeah,
the date when how stuff blows up.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, it's very, very interesting, and we talk a little bit more about that. Or we can move on to some other things.
I think we need to take a break and then come back.
We do. The imminent collision between the green agenda and the need for more AI. Where will it get the power for all them servers? And the Knesset, Israel's legislature, says no Palestinian state, not now, not ever.
Yep, no green agenda for them either, because green is the color that they use. For
more
Gaza.
ahead on PID Radio.
Giants, gods, dragons, they're all real. We may not see them with our natural eyes, but their handiwork is evident in what's happening in the world around us, the spiritual warfare taking place.
It is so true. It's obvious in Israel, but worldwide. Historically, we've seen this happen. And we want you to get excited about the Old Testament and the New, and the giants, gods, and dragons within it, because your kids need this information. So do you.
Yes. We're living in prophetic times. Help make sense of it with our special offer through July. Our book, Giants, Gods, and Dragons, which takes a fresh look at end times prophecy. My book's Bad Moon Rising, about the spiritual forces behind Islam. And Last Clash of the Titans, the overlap between what we were told is Greek mythology and the Bible. And our DVD, based on the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. All of this, an $80 value for just $45 plus shipping and handling, now through July, only at our online store, gilberthouse.org/store.
Hi friends, Pastor Mike Spaulding here to announce the Go Therefore 2024 conference. We will gather Friday and Saturday, July the 26th and 27th at Harvest Revival Center in Brookville, Ohio. This year we welcome the following scholars, Bible teachers, and researchers: Derek and Sharon Gilbert, Joe Horn, L.A. Marzulli, Dr. Judd Burton, Pastor Paul Begley, Pastor Carl Gallops, Dr. Greg Reed, Tom Dunn, and Dr. Sherry Tenpenny will be doing a book signing for her new book, Walking with God. Live stream is available. Ministry tables are available for like-minded ministries. Hotel and other information is on the conference website, www.gothereforeconference.com. Gothereforeconference.com. Looking forward to seeing you.
Shall we begin? Let's begin now.
Welcome back to P.I.D. Radio. I'm Derek Gilbert.
I'm Sharon Gilbert, and speaking of Israel, we want to remind you we are going back to Israel in March of next year.
March of next year, yes. March 25th through April 3rd, the dates. This will be our full tour. Again, that's
the plan.
Assumes
things could
that
change,
things will be peaceful by then.
That's the plan.
Yep. So you can find out more. Our special guests joining us, Timothy Alberino, Dr. Judd Burton, and Doug Van Dorn, author of Giants, Sons of the Gods. Tim Alberino with his wonderful book, Birthright. Judd Burton, author of Interview with the Giant, Ethno-Historical Notes on the Nephilim. Yeah, some interesting thinkers joining us. This will be a rolling tour through the Holy Land, a rolling conference through the Holy Land.
So much fun. And by the way, we are also going back in November.
Yes, we have made the decision. We're going to do another Solidarity tour, Solidarity Mission. This will be a 1-week tour, which will focus on Jerusalem, the area around it. We'll visit Tel Aviv. I'm sure we'll visit the Shiva Rehabilitation Hospital, visit with wounded IDF soldiers again. We'll go to Hostage Square in Tel Aviv, of course. And then down in the south, the Nova Music Festival site, probably Sderot once again, the site of that police station that was the scene of just an intense battle.
Possibly Ofakim and other places. We will go to the Temple Mount. We'll go to the what we believe is the true crucifixion site and also the true burial site, because we're hoping by then, praying by then, that the Church of the Paternoster will be open. It's been going through renovations.
And maybe one or two other surprises, but this will be a powerful tour. If you want to get an idea of what it will be like, I featured some video and images around a 1-hour talk that I gave for Hear the Watchman on the View from the Bunker podcast a few weeks back, and I'll link to that in the show notes so you can take a look at that if you're interested. But don't wait. We'll have information up today, because this decision just made within the last few days, but this information will go up today at our website, gilberthouse.org/travel. Information about the tour next spring is also there, gilberthouse.org/travel.
Yep, and we'll also tell you about more of the places we're going to be at the end of this study, the end of this program.
Yes. Well, speaking of Israel, maybe just stick on this for a little bit. There was an interesting resolution passed by the Knesset this past week.
Yeah, I was surprised that they actually voted on it. Didn't they actually vote?
They did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one thing to say, well, we should probably do this. Let's all sign. Well, a few of us will sign. They voted on it.
There was a letter that had been signed, but then they went back and they got a resolution. 63 members of the Knesset, which is a majority, but they're from 9 different political parties that represent 80 members of Knesset. So you're looking at about a 2/3 majority who expressed the sense of the Knesset that there should never be a Palestinian state. Since October 7th, the percentage of Israeli Jews, who make up about 70% of the population of Israel, who thought that there could someday be a peaceful coexistence with a Palestinian state inside Judea and Samaria, the area the world calls the West Bank, has dropped from a slight majority down to about 25% or 20%. 80% of Israeli Jews, who make up 70% of Israel, no longer believe it is possible to live peacefully with the Arabs inside their borders, inside the Palestinian control. Now, there are plenty of Arabs inside Israel proper, about 2 million. So that's about 20% of the population of Israel is Arab. And there are cities that are majority Arab, Nazareth, for example. And every time we've gone to Israel, we've stayed multiple days in Nazareth each time. So Israel does coexist with Arab neighbors in many parts of the country. It's just the areas under the control of Fatah, the Palestinian Authority, or Hamas that refuse to live side by side with Jews.
Well, let me read something from Obadiah that I think is interesting when it comes to the Hashemite kingdom, Edom. Verse 10, Obadiah 1. Because of the violence you did to your close relatives in Israel, you will be filled with shame and destroyed forever. When they were invaded, you stood aloof, refusing to help them. Foreign invaders carried off their wealth and cast lots to divide up Jerusalem, but you acted like one of Israel's enemies.
This was during a reference to how Edom...
First century, wasn't it?
No, it was during the conquest by the Chaldeans.
Oh,
under
that's right.
Nebuchadnezzar.
Yes.
The Edomites took part and assisted, even though Edom was also conquered by Babylon at that same time.
But Edom and Moab, which is part of it, it's essentially in that same region.
Mm-hmm.
Petra is there, by the way.
Yeah.
There are passages that indicate that Moab will be, M-O-A-B, Moab, we pronounce it usually, will be spared for a time. So I think this is an already but not yet, because Edom has not been fully punished.
Mm-hmm.
And the Hashemite kingdom, Jordan, controls the Temple Mount.
Right. Hashemite is, for those who've heard the term, not familiar with it, it's the eponymous, which means the guy for whom the family was named.
Right.
Hashem was the great-grandfather of the prophet Muhammad.
Which, of course, Hashem is the name.
The name, yeah, what Jews call Yahweh. And when I say prophet Muhammad, by the way, just assume that the word prophet is in air quotes.
Right.
He heard from something, but it was not an angel of God.
He heard from Muhammad.
Yeah.
Yes, somebody.
He heard from Jibril claiming to be Gabriel, but it was not.
It was not. Sorry, you ain't Gabriel.
Yeah, he heard from something, but it was not an angel loyal to God. The Hashemites 100 years ago, so in the 1920s, were working with the Brits. During World War I, they worked with the British to remove the Ottoman control over Mesopotamia. So everything from Egypt to, well, Egypt was kind of outside the Ottoman control at that point, but Syria, Jordan, on today's map, Syria, Jordan, Israel, Lebanon, Iraq, all of that was under Turkish control, the Ottoman Empire. The Arab tribes allied themselves with the British because the Ottomans were allies of Austria-Hungary and Germany in World War I. So this war stretched from France to Baghdad, basically, to Iraq. It covered everything in there. The Arabs were supported in a rebellion against the Ottoman Turks by the Brits. The leader of the Arabs at the time was a fellow named Hussein, Sharif Hussein. He was the Sharif of Mecca. The Hashemites had ruled Mecca since the 10th century. And again, these are believed to be the direct linear descendants of Muhammad. When World War I was over and Mesopotamia was divided up by the British and the French and the Italians, the Arabs had been promised independence, and there were essentially three kingdoms split out. Arabia went to the eldest son, Ali bin Hussein.
Mm-hmm.
The second son, whose name was Abdullah, became the king of the Transjordan, which is now Jordan. And the third son, Faisal, became king of Iraq. That line was ended in the 1950s when there was a military coup in Iraq, which is why you've got the government there. In Arabia, the kingdom only lasted until 1925 when Ibn Saud conquered Mecca and he took over as the king.
Dave's at the door.
Oh, come on in.
Well, we just took a really quick break, paused because David came in again from Christ-Powered Construction, and he asked that we all pray because he's about to use a machine to pull our very, very, very heavy wooden deck away from the back of our house so that he can access it and make sure that we don't have major moisture damage.
Yeah.
A long story there, but just let's say that that he's noticed some. He needs to get in there and dig more of the trench to get at the footer of the foundation. So we prayed. We asked that you would pray as well. I know the Lord is out of space and time. He is always now. It's always present time. So I'm a firm believer that you can be listening to this a year from now. And if you pray, the Lord knew you were going to pray, and he honors it.
Amen.
So there you go.
So, yeah, it's exciting around here. And, of course, the dogs are letting David know that they know that he's there.
Hey, that's our deck.
Yeah. So Obstacles. But
well, yes, indeed.
Again, better that he find what he's found now rather than later when the deck just kind of falls away from the house.
Yes, indeed. Well, back to Israel. Yeah. We know that the Knesset has just voted and said, look, we are just simply not going to divide into two countries.
Right. So anyway, just to wrap up the story. Which is why I got to
dividing.
Right. And this, to just wrap up the whole thing about the Hashemites.
Because they're all going, what happened with the Hashemites?
There were three branches of the Hashemite family. Hussein's three sons divided Arabia, Jordan, and Iraq. The Arabians fell under the control of the House of Saud, which is why it's now Saudi Arabia since 1925. The Iraqi military took out the successor to Faisal in Iraq in 1955, I think it was. But the king of Jordan, King Abdullah, who's reigned there since 1999, he is still on the throne and still the lone successor now to the line of Muhammad, the Hashemites. And the Hashemites still control the Temple Mount, which was a decision made by Moshe Dayan in 1967 when Jewish forces, the Israeli forces, the IDF, took the Temple Mount in the Six-Day War. He was, like many early settlers in Israel, a product of socialist Jews who moved in from Russia or Eastern Europe or whatever, very secular, and he just thought, okay, well, there's historical interest for the Temple Mount, but not much else. So if we let the Muslims have access to it, we let the Christians, it'll be fine. No, it's just made nobody happy. And that, speaking of the coming conference next weekend in Brookville, Ohio, outside Dayton, my presentation is going to be on this, and I am learning as I'm doing some reading, and you could. There are many books that have been written about this period of history, but between 1915, really, and Israel's independence in 1948, there was meeting after conference, after commission, after report, after suggestion, after rebellion, after just the whole area was in turmoil. And there were recommendations going back to 1936 that Palestine, as it was known then, be divided between a Jewish state, an Arab state, and an international zone with international control over Jerusalem and Bethlehem, the holy sites, which again made nobody happy. The United Nations partition plan of 1947 was accepted reluctantly by the Jewish Agency for Palestine. Like, well, okay, it's not what we were promised in 1917 or 1920 or 1922. But we'll take it as a first step. The Arabs rejected it outright, said, no, we do not want to live with Jews. And so and that resulted in war between 1947 and 1949.
I have my hand up, Mr. Gilbert.
Yes, Mrs. G.
Just want to let all of you who are going to the conference know, Derek is scheduled to speak before the dinner hour on Friday the 26th. Might want to bring dinner with you.
I'm going to try to keep it to an hour. So this will be.
No, I know that. Yeah. It's just that there is a lot of information.
Yeah.
And it's very easy to go over when you have a lot of information.
Yeah. There will not be time for more than just a surface level analysis of all of these different conferences. But a lot of these I had not heard of until I started digging into it. I had not heard of the San Remo Declaration, which was a precursor. It was after the Paris Peace Conference in 1919, 1920, they said, okay, we'll give Israel, we'll give the Jews everything from the Mediterranean to what is now Jordan. And then that was taken away by the League of Nations Charter in 1922.
I know. I'm smiling because you're already going into this long, excited list of things you discovered. And I love it. You and I have talked a lot about this over the last few weeks. It's research I do for the Red Wing Saga because as I write books 10, 11, and 12, all of that takes place in there. So I've had to read a lot of stuff too, but I get it. So just word up.
Yeah.
Have snacks with you just in case. Now, my talk is on Saturday morning. It's right before Dr. Tenpenny. I am not going to go over. I may actually be slightly short, which I think is an advantage because Sherry Tenpenny is a friend of ours, and I look forward to hearing all that she has to say.
Absolutely.
And by saying her name, I've just got it canceled. Which means download the app.
Yeah, download our app, bypass the gatekeepers. So there's a lot going on there at the conference. There will be a lot of information with the speakers. We'll talk more about that at the end of this podcast. But the bottom line is what happened in the post-World War I, even during World War I, was fulfillment of prophecy. Yes. I think those who are claiming that Israel is not the real Israel, is not the prophesied restoration of Israel to the land. Look, even in the prophecies of the day of the Lord, it's clear that Israel is not in for a good time.
No.
When you read Zechariah 12, Zechariah 14, I don't understand the logic behind the belief that Israel has to be restored in a way that is consistent with our beliefs as Christians, because obviously Jews are Jews because they have not accepted Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior. But the prophecy in Zechariah 12 is clear that a day is coming where they will look on, the Lord says, they will look on me, on him whom they have pierced, and mourn. And as Paul writes in Romans chapter 11, that God is not rejected the people that he chose, whom he foreknew.
Mm-hmm.
So there's still a day coming when Israel will play a key role in the end times. And my purpose at my talk is just to show that there were a lot of moving parts that had to come together, and the fact that Israel came to be in the face of really intense opposition is miraculous.
The thing about conspiracy theories is that they're usually distilled down into one or two sentences that a person can hang his or her hat on and say, that's what's wrong with the world.
Mm-hmm.
It's because of this, or this, or this, or that,
or
them. Yeah.
Yeah.
The fact is the world's very, very complicated.
Yeah.
And you have to be willing to read a lot of books, read a lot of scripture in order to unpack what's actually taking place historically. And then you have to dig behind and look at the spiritual war behind all of that.
Mm-hmm. Theopolitics.
Theopolitics is really what we need to be studying. Well, we're going to answer a question from the app.
Yeah,
and
we will. I want to mention one thing only because I teased it.
Oh, okay.
And that is simply this: the power drain or demands.
Oh, yes, you did. I forgot about that.
Artificial intelligence. That's why I made a note here, because otherwise I would have forgotten too. That the demands of artificial intelligence are so intense. The processing power needed for things like ChatGPT or what's the other one that called us a Claude.
Oh, yeah.
Claude is another.
Well, there are lots of
AI.
them.
There are a lot of them out there.
French.
Yeah, but the demand for those services, and there are others like Midjourney, which are AI-powered graphic generators, and other AIs that are powering things. Siri, Alexa, whatever.
And there are some that will do films, videos, and they look very, very real, frighteningly real.
So energy companies are trying to figure out how to supply the electricity needed by these artificial intelligence processing farms. And it's gone so far. I mean, the demands are so intense that the power companies are even considering things that would have been considered absolutely unthinkable even a few years ago. They're thinking about and exploring whether it's possible to restart 3 Mile Island at Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Yeah. You ever hear the China Syndrome, the movie with Jack Lemmon? There was the meltdown there at 3 Mile Island. They're looking, okay, is that possible? That plant has been shut down since 1979, the accident there. But the electrical
It's like saying, let's restart Chernobyl.
Yeah, 15 U.S. states contain 80% of the data centers in the U.S. And in Virginia, more than 25% of the electricity is consumed by data centers.
Not very green, is it?
Well, that's the thing. How can you accommodate that? And Bitcoin farming, which now consumes about 3% of American electricity, but by the year 2030 is supposed to be up to 8%, as Bitcoin farms are moving from China. China outlawed them in 2021. So between Bitcoin farming and the growing demand for AI processing capacity, while at the same time we're trying to achieve net zero, no carbon.
I know. It's all about control.
No coal, no natural gas.
But that has never been the actual goal. It's the stated goal, but it's all about control.
That's right. They want us poor, cold, and in the dark.
Yep.
And that kind of ties back to the CrowdStrike IT outage.
It will happen again.
Are they really that incompetent that they released an update that had not been tested, or was the outage in fact a test?
That's what I think. I think it was a test. And I'm sure many of you think that as well. So, yeah, keep some cash, keep food. If you cannot keep cash, try to get some food. If you're in a position where you're on a limited income, do what little you can. And Derek and I, for years, had on Subscribe and Save from Amazon beans. Yep. We now have beans coming out our ears. So we've got, if you ever need beans, we've got them. But you can do something like that, or just go to the dollar store or some little grocery store where you can buy them inexpensively, and buy 2 bags of beans every week.
Beans, rice, things that you can store on the shelf for a long term. You don't need to buy freeze-dried stuff or stuff in buckets. Right. You can, speaking of buckets, you can put buckets out to collect rainwater and just have some sort of a filter. And you can make them. There are YouTube videos online to teach you how to use charcoal and other things to make your own filter instead of buying really expensive ones. Right. If you've got the money, buy one. Yeah. A day is coming where the CrowdStrike thing will look like just a minor blip compared to what will happen when things really go down. So, it as you say, the stated goal is to achieve net zero, but the real goal is control, to get us using less, owning nothing and being happy about it. Well, that's what we were told. So the question from the app, gilberthouse.org/app. You want to throw a question to Sharon or me? We've got sections on the app for that. By the way, someone asked a question, and I loved it. They asked if we were going to ever bring Sci Friday back, worrying that maybe we didn't own the rights to it. We do. We just don't have the time presently. We loved doing Sci Friday. Right. So, we would, if we can. But right now, we've been given the rights back to the Bible's greatest mysteries. So that we're thinking about doing again. We're trying to figure out a way to have another set in this barn. Yeah, because we hadn't planned on it, so we'll need to rearrange some things. But I think we can figure it out somehow. So there's that. The question, and I don't want to identify this person because it related to a personal situation that person was in. But the question was, should we leave America, given the turmoil the country is in, what may be a rather turbulent election cycle? We remember the fiery but mostly peaceful protests of 2017, immediately following the inauguration. You can always go to Israel with us in November. It's just a couple of days after the election. Right. It'll get you out of town for a week. Yeah. Oh, yeah. The Solidarity Mission, we didn't give the dates. November 7th through 13th. Is it the 7th? 7th through 13th. Yeah. Okay. So when is the election? The 5th? Election is the 5th. Okay. So. The 5th. We always remember the 5th of November. It's Guy Fawkes Day. Oh, right. Again, another fiery but mostly peaceful protest. Yeah. This person was asking because of concern about not just the political situation, but the world's geopolitical situation with NATO, which is dominated by the United States, continuing to poke the Russian bear. So did that person ask you or me? I don't recall where I got it from. I think it was sort of directed at both of us. Should we leave America because of the potential for a nuclear conflict with Russia? And I'm just adding to that the possibility of more civil unrest over the election that's coming up. Well, first of all, I would ask if indeed you feel that the Lord is telling you leave the United States, then where would you go? Do you speak another language? Do you have a skill set you can take to another country? Are you retired? Do you have the funds to go to another country? Because to move to another country, you often, for legal immigration, you often have to show that you have enough money to live on, that country doesn't have to support you. Do you have a place to go? Can you rent a house? Can you buy a house?
Do you have school children? You would have to enroll in school. There are a lot of questions. Spiritually speaking, I think that, there are hard times ahead, but I think that's going to be worldwide.
Right.
So being in the United States and having an influence on the people around you, standing as a witness, providing, in our case, if our neighbors need these beans, we'll share our beans with you. Having something you can share as you share the gospel message, to me, that's a reason for staying.
I agree with you. Most other nations, surprisingly, are a little more particular about who they let in than the United States is.
Very much.
Yeah. So you have to ask that question. Can we support ourselves in this other place?
Mm-hmm.
We're in kind of a unique situation where we can do what we do pretty much anywhere.
Yeah. But if the internet went down,
it would make that a lot more difficult.
It would make it very difficult, but we also know the Lord will provide.
Mm-hmm. But as you say, there really aren't many other, if any, good options. I mean, for English speakers like us, who I've got not even rudimentary French as a to fall back on. I mean, if it were necessary, I had to learn another language and was forced into it. Yeah, I probably could, but it's.
I have tourist for a week, German.
Yeah,
I can ask my way for directions. I can ask where the bathroom is, things like that. I could get by, but frankly, most Europeans have some English.
Right. There are only a handful of countries where we could probably get by, and I think that's true of most Americans.
Mm-hmm.
But again, you have to have some means of support and be able to demonstrate that to wherever you would plan to emigrate to.
Now, if you're living in a big city and you're worried about, return of some of those nasty riots, then if you have the wherewithal to move and you can take a skill set to another state, there are certain states that are frankly a little more friendly to Christians.
Right. We're in kind of a bubble here in the Ozarks.
Mm-hmm.
And we are very thankful for that.
Very thankful.
Even when I go to St. Louis to visit our daughter, I feel like I've gone into a different country.
Yeah, I know.
She lives and works in a very progressive area. Yeah,
it's very urban there. Here in Southwest Missouri, it is very, very conservative.
Mm-hmm.
And, people that just help their neighbors.
Mm-hmm. So that might be an option to consider. If you're concerned about that aspect of it, maybe look to move to a smaller town or a rural area with the internet connecting. Even us here in the rural Ozarks now, we've got passable internet. It's not gigabit by any stretch, but it's good enough. You can live a lot of places that even 10 years ago would have been more difficult because of the lack of internet access in parts of the country like this. When we first moved here, our internet was horrible.
It was really bad, but
so
the Lord
you may consider that as
stuff.
an option rather than getting out of the United States entirely, because if the world does get embroiled in a global conflict, which is possible. I mean, China's been running military exercises with Belarus on the border of Poland and only 40 miles from the border with Ukraine. So if NATO keeps poking Russia and Russia gets involved, they are allied with China. And they're in an economic union with India. I mean, Zelensky just got himself in trouble by criticizing Prime Minister Modi of India for going to
I know, that
going
was
to
a
Moscow.
mistake.
Yeah. So there won't be many places in this world, especially if you are a native English speaker, that are going to be better. I mean, England itself has the same kind of rampant immigration problems that we are seeing here in the United States. So, I guess the bottom line is, pray as Christians. We are not given a spirit of fear, and just seriously consider your options and consider that perhaps maybe moving to a rural area or a smaller community might accomplish what you're trying to do.
It might. Good words.
So,
well, we promised we would tell you other places we're going. We will, as we said earlier, be at the Go Therefore conference in Brookville, Ohio, next weekend. Starts on Friday.
it does.
And ends on Saturday night, Saturday evening. Derek will be preaching on Sunday morning at that same church if you want to stay over.
Yeah. So, in fact, that Sunday morning, I'll be sharing our experience from our previous Solidarity mission to Israel in May.
Yep.
And showing some video clips and images from what we saw to kind of illustrate the point. So all day Friday, all day Saturday, and other guest speakers like L.A. Marzulli, Pastor Carl Gallups, as you mentioned, Dr. Sherry Five and Dime, Pastor Paul Begley, Dr. Greg Reed. Thanks, Kenny C., for that.
You should actually, they figured that out too.
Probably, yeah.
You should probably go where I said it earlier, said the name earlier, and just, overdub it. Five and Dime.
Tom Dunn will be there, and Dr. Judd Burton will be presenting via video.
And he will be presenting after the dinner hour on Friday. So I will try now. Sorry, Sarah. So if Derek goes long, again, bring a sandwich because you don't want to miss Judd.
I was talking with Judd Burton on the phone the other night, and he's going to be presenting on the time of the year that Jesus went to Caesarea Philippi.
Oh.
Because it coincided with a
Februalia.
Februalia, right. The annual festival in the Roman calendar that dealt with the dead ancestors.
That's big.
It is.
That's big. That is I've done research on that.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's big.
Significant. So it will be a wonderful gathering. If you can get there, please do. Brookville, Ohio is just outside Dayton. Friday and Saturday, the 26th and 27th. If you can't, streaming video is available. You can sign up for that online. GoThereforeConference.com is the website. And we're very excited to be part of this gathering. It's going to be like Old Home Week.
I know. Also, Derek is going to be in North Dakota.
Pitchfork and Hoe gathering. This will be at the Eagles Club in Valley City, North Dakota. I'll be speaking Friday and Saturday, September 6th and 7th. This, essentially, the whole gathering is like a farm and trade show for small, like homesteaders and small farm operations. Mm-hmm. Really great, crafts and food and other things there. Some presentations, workshops on best practices for small farmers.
So let's get the city boy to come and talk to us.
But North Dakota is the land of my ancestors. My mother's side of the family.
You grew up in Chicago, but you are descended from farmers.
Emigrated there in the late 19th century. So looking forward to that. Had a great time there last October. Looking forward to getting back and seeing them there again this year. But then in early October, we're going to Idaho Falls, Idaho.
I know. It's going to be wonderful. Looking forward to that. Jeannie and Mike Kerr asked me if I would be one of the speakers. And I'll tell you what, it's Heidi Begley, myself,
Tracy Tennant.
Tracy Tennant, yes, thank you very much. Leslie Johnson, Lisa Keys, Vicki Joy Anderson, Sharon Cluck, and Jennifer Crate. So it's going to be a great gathering of women speakers. This is a women's conference at, what's the place where they're holding it?
It's the Holiday Inn and Suites.
Thank you very much for seeing that. Yeah, it's a nice facility in Idaho Falls, beautiful area of the country, and you can fly in, so you don't have to drive all the way. Mm-hmm. We are going to fly. Derek gets to come with me.
I'm her plus one.
I know, it's wonderful. So yeah, we would. This is the first time they've done a women's conference, and so support them. I'll tell you what, Mike and Jeannie are hard workers, and they put their savings, what little they had, is long since gone because they rarely break even on these conferences.
Right.
Rarely. Most of the time, they owe money at the end of it, and they just eat that.
Yeah. Because
they love doing this.
Right. So you find out more at hearthewatchman.com is the login for information and registration for the Ignite Your Fire conference, the women's conference in October. And then in December, Christmas in Branson.
I know.
A prophecy conference from Prophecy Watchers. L.A. Marzulli, Bill Salas, Billy Crone, Ken Johnson, Lieutenant Colonel Robert McGinnis, Patrick M. Wood, Doug Hershey, Brandon Holthouse, Josh Peck, Mondo Gonzalez, Gary Stearman. I think Gary's going to be there. I don't see him on the poster now.
Well, I'm sure
maybe I misspoke, but I know Gary talked about it. Olivier Melnick, who's a wonderful Messianic speaker, just watched an interview with Olivier and John Haller recently.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So honored to be a part of that one. Terry James will be there as well. And that will be December 5th through 8th at the Chateau in Branson, the Chateau on the Lake, which is a beautiful facility. So, and Christmas in Branson, there's so many things to do.
I know.
If you want to bring the family, spend a few extra days, that would be a great holiday getaway, but just the conference itself will be just an amazing gathering.
And in case you've been sitting there scribbling away trying to write down all of these dates and places, you don't need to. Just get our app, go to the calendar portion of that, or go to our website, gilberthouse.org/calendar.
Yeah. It's all right there. And I think that covers everything we've got
just
through
about.
Through this year. Good. Our Israel tour next spring, March 25th through April 3rd.
Do want to thank
there as well.
We do want to thank everyone who's been praying for my niece Sarah. Those of you who are able, if you can, help her just a little bit with her bills. She's finally gotten a bill saying that they've been billed to the amount that is her copay. Now, beyond that, we're not sure how much they're going to pay towards anything. But at this point, she owes $50,000. They don't have it. Like most of us, they don't. But if 5,000 people gave $10 each, I know that's asking a lot. But if you've got $1, if you've got $5, if you've got $10, if you've got more, you can help out Sarah today. The link for helping her, her own PayPal, it's not going through us. You can go through that at the link at gilberthouse.org. gilberthouse.org/hope for Sarah. There's also a big graphic you can click on at our website landing page. And if you just want to write her a check, that'd be great. And you can send it directly to her. That information is also on that page. Right.
gilberthouse.org/hope for Sarah, or just click the big banner at the top of gilberthouse.org. Tomorrow morning, our Gilbert House Fellowship Bible study as we continue working through the book of Proverbs. Tomorrow evening on A View from the Bunker, it is the Iron and Myth crew. Although we were down a man.
Oh.
Yeah, Judd Burton had some technical issues, could not log in, but we talk about the Nephilim.
Oh, finally.
Yeah, 30 episodes in, and we finally say, hey, we haven't talked about the giants yet. We sort of assumed everybody was on page there. So Brian Godawa and Doug Van Dorn, as we talk about, and me, yes, as the moderator of that three-ring circus, talking about the Nephilim, and that'll be tomorrow night at vftb.net, or better yet, on our app, or our Roku, or our Apple TV channels.
Awesome.
Until next time, I'm Derek Gilbert.
I'm Sharon Gilbert, and for the guys working in the yard and the dogs in the house, bye-bye, everybody.
P.I.D. Radio is produced by Gilbert House and released under Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives 4.0 International License. Follow us online, Twitter @P.I.D. Radio, or the P.I.D. Radio page at Facebook. Join us each week for our online Bible study, the Gilbert House Fellowship, online at gilberthouse.org.